In the last video, we've had quite a bit of issue with this new process list causing us some headaches. So when we are adding things to the list and saving them, we've now got that working, but when we delete and run the code, you can see the delete button doesn't work. And when we do save, we're also getting duplicate entries in the database. And if we look in the database for the action table, we're getting these what look like missing entries in the database. So we need to solve that along with a load of bugs that we've identified in the last video. So for this one, this database entry here, the last time I looked at Entity Framework and the version I'm currently using in most productions doesn't do this. But I've found out through checking out the latest documentation on Entity Framework that they've actually added a bunch of new hierarchy maps that are default different than what I've been using. So we have the table per hierarchy, which is the original default that we saw. We changed this to the new kind of table per type, which I knew about by doing this. But there's also further issues which we're seeing, and that's because we need table per concrete type. So even if you specify table per type with the toTable, it still uses that existing table, so the underlying table, which is the action data model, to store values that are the same, and then it stores the different values in here, so you can see it then stores the additional values in here. Personally, if it's more efficient, I'm not too keen on it because it's not about efficiency for me in an application that's this small. I want the clarity in the tables that I know we're not missing. Say, for example, to me, these look like floating references with missing process IDs, so it's not very clear to me when I'm browsing the database table that there's not a problem here. And luckily, the implementation for that's pretty simple. If we go into, I think it's the database context. Yeah, so in where we basically do all the bindings like this, what we can do is, if there's already one for the action here, so in the actions, on the entity, so this is the base class that we want to do it on, you can tell it to use the TPC for the concrete type, hierarchical, or table to type. So we want the concrete type here. And then we've still got defining an ID. So that will, I'll probably move that to the top as well, because we don't want it out of the way and not being noticed. And we'll put a comment as well, concrete type. And now that's all we should do. If we then delete the database and restart, and then it's going to recreate the database this time. And if we now add a process and save, add the drawing, we've got that one bug where, I don't know, it's just a notification bug, we'll soon find out, and save. Do we now in the database have, in the actions one, just a single item? And we do. So we also know from that that this actually does get added and works. It's just that the notification event on this bug doesn't show. So that's fixed the database side. Now, the next issue, well, we've got two issues. One, we don't have anything appearing in this list. And the other issue is, like, when you make a new process, you can save. And then if you add a drawing, this first time and only this instance, you don't seem to get that notification event. So we'll ignore that for now. Let's try and get the actions list loading. Now we know they're in the database here. We want to get them loading back. So I'm not sure why the loading isn't working. Maybe it's something to do with the unique key we made. So where does loading happen? Process page view model? No, I don't think it says this list here, the overall list. Oh, so it's fetching it from the database, so this should work. Ah, we don't include it here. So by default, when you're fetching from the database, I think I've mentioned it before, when you just do a to list, what it's going to do on the processes is it's going to pull all the values from the database field, but it won't pull this. This is like a linked table when it's a list. So we looked at the process data table. So that's processes, we called it. You've got job name and description, but you see this table doesn't have the actions because they are in the currently action table here. So it's a different table. And in order to link the two tables together, we will need to tell Entity Framework to actually include them. And you can do this dynamically after you've selected things, or in our case, just because, again, this is such a small application, for simplicity, we will just literally, I'll get there in a minute, we'll just include the actions like this. So this basically sets it, and includes the table for actions in the return value. So processes should have the values in them. Now, whether that actually works or not, there might be other issues. We'll find out. So now processes, yes, there we go. So that hopefully that's the only problem. This one doesn't have any. This one does. And we will say try and delete. So the next one is we can't delete. So let's try and figure out what that is. So in the process page view, we have the actions list. So this list box then is what we're interested in. The delete button. Yeah, so it's linked to a, is it linked? Delete button. Process list.delete item. All right, so the process list is in process page view model. The process list is here, and that's a selectable. So we're trying to delete the process list, not the actions inside of it. So that is actually currently, it's linked to a function, but it's the wrong one. That's trying to delete this process here in the side menu. It's trying to do what this button does, and we don't want that. We just want to delete it from this list. So we need a new command for that. We'll put that on the process page then. Let's just go into the commands. We've got add action to process, so we'll have a private void delete action from process. And then in here, it's not an available action item view model. It will just be the action view model, I believe. This will be a relay command. And then in here now we want the process list dot the selected item question mark dot actions dot remove and the item. And I'm not going to bother with the confirmation box and all of that lot for this because it's just a list of actions and it's drag and droppable, and I think it's just easier to not bother with a double confirmation. This is kind of a list that we want to construct fairly fast and rapid. It's not like we're deleting a whole process, it's just an items list. That can be now an expression body. So we should be able to bind to that with the word command. So instead of process list.delete command, we can just do delete action from command. Hopefully that's all we need. I don't think there's much more to it. As long as all the bindings are working, that should get delete working. So if we go, oh, or not, knew I shouldn't have spoke too soon. Parameter object cannot be inferred from string. Action view model requires an action view model. So what have I done wrong here? It's got to be that function. So if we go to the process page, we're asking for an action view model, and we're bound to the ID, the string. We just want to be bound to the whole object. Let's try that again. All right, so now there we go. So it's not crashing now. Click this, click delete. There we go. Now save. Oh, I think that's worked. Yeah, so it's disappeared from the list. Let's check the database. So we go to an action. Still in the database. So we have, it's nulled the data, the process, because obviously the process is now gone. So it can't link, the process hasn't gone either. Oh yeah, sorry, the process has gone, has stayed because we still have the processes. We deleted this, it's removed the process ID, but hasn't deleted. So that's just classic Cascade delete that we need to do. We did that already for one of the other items. If we look at in here for Cascade delete, we did it recently for the profile data. We now need to do it for the process data as well. So to do the Cascade delete, we want to basically copy what we have here. Just paste it in and we'll call it process actions. And there's a problem because this is, in order to do Cascade delete, we need the inner item, which is currently an action data model, but the action data model is not used in that way. It's for a concrete type. So we can't really do the action data model like this because then we need to have many, or rather, this needs to be a process data model that has many actions, and then the actions have to have one process. So here, where it would be effectively an action data model, we'd have to add the processes to the action data model, which is not used for that. This is a base class for not only the processes, but also the actual actions. So we're going to have to make, if we just copy and paste the action view model, it does basically the same, and we'll call it process action view model, I think. Then we'll call this process action view model, and it can just literally inherit from action view model. We don't need any of the properties, it's just exactly the same. We'll need the to data model and the extension. So this will have to be a process action. Does it need, yeah, we're best doing it just to be safe. That'll need to be a process action data model. We're best keeping them separate. So we'll do the same on the action data model. Let's copy that and do that as well. So copy and paste the action data model, call that process action data model. This can be process. That now will be process action. And to be honest, this action table, I don't think it'll ever be a table. I don't think it'll ever get created. So let's leave that in just in case, so we can always see it, but I don't think that table will get used now. In the process action data model, we can just leave it the same, I think. And I don't think there's any reason we can't do this. I'm just thinking of if the entity framework ends up trying to do something about this as well, being, I don't think it will, because we specified this as a concrete type, so it shouldn't do that. That means we don't have to specify any of them. And we can specify then the single, which is what we need. Well, we don't need it, but you might as well put it in there. A process data model. And do we do that for like settings? Do we have the parent? Yes, we do. So we have like the parent. So we'll do a process data model and call this the process. You can have the ID as well for the sake of it. So process ID. And that will be all we need there. We can put a max length, even though it's an ID of, say, 1,000, just to be safe. Don't know what we did for the other IDs. We actually did 100 for the IDs, so let's just do 100 for this ID. So that's got all the values of the action, plus it can now have a process. And then where were we now? So we're back to the process action view model. So on this now, we need to do a to data model. The data model then would probably want the process, but that's going to be bound by, pulling and fetching from the database. So we will need to set the process ID here. And that means this is going to need a process ID. So based on the action view model, we want an observable property. The has changed, we should probably fire and keep it the same, even though it's likely not going to change once we set it. And this will be process ID. And then in here, that could be process ID. This will be process action view model. This will return now a process action view model. And it has in a process action data model, with the only change being that we set the process ID. So I think that is all we need. That's wanting the new keyword. So now we have there, we should be able to say it has one why can't we say process action data model? There's still something wrong with the actions. That means the process data model actions are wrong. This needs to be process action data model. And now we should have access to the process. There we go. With foreign key, process ID, and now we can cascade delete. Now what that's going to do to the rest of the code, I'm not sure. So let's just compile. And then we have now, this is a process view model. So that means the actions in here are correct, but the actions in here are wrong. So these actions want to now be process action view model, process action view model. And now we've got another issue. So this is complaining that, again, an action view model. So is that these actions? Process action. So it's not that side of it. So is it the copy action view model? That will be up here. Let's check the view model first. So we have the process view model in here. Let's check that's correct. So we've set the actions up correct. Let's just see if we have anywhere else with an action view model. No, just there. So there's nothing in that one. What about available action view model? Right, so is this the one? Yeah, this is where we want to change this to process as well, because the available actions, the whole point is the available actions for a process, and we probably want to rename this available action to process available action because it's specific to process this as. But we'll do that last. I don't like renaming classes in the middle of code not compiling. So that will be action, process action view model. I think that's it. That'll probably fix that issue. Yes, that's fixed that issue. So now do we compile? Nope, more issues. Going down a rabbit hole here. The next issue then is in the return list. So what's this now complaining about? Action view model is available action item view model. And the problem is to view model can't convert action view model to, so it's this to view model on the F, and the F is the list. And the list is return list, is it? No, the list is to available action. So it's whatever we pass in. So it's going to be, for example, this list. So it's going to be like an action print data model. So that's going to, yeah, so this is where we said this to view model is going to go to the action view model extension. Now it needs to go to the process actions. But that means then we've got two to view model calls. If we copy and pasted this to override the action data view model, we're going to have exactly the same. If we put that in process, where's process action? Process action view model here. So at the minute, the override to convert is using a process action data model, but this we can't do here because this is coming from originally the part where we need to convert from. This is coming from the database as original action view models or action data models. And at this point, we need to cast. So in here, this is where we now need to cast from an action data model to a specific process view model. So we need a new override here. Where do we put? That's the question. So we could either put it in the action view model, which I don't think makes much sense because you wouldn't look there. I think we want it in. I think we just want it in here in the actual process action view model in this override. So let's just copy that and paste it again. And now the view model wants to have, is it in here, action view model? Yep. And then we can't do this. We can't leave it as to view model. We also won't have a process at this stage. We can't have a process because it doesn't know about it. It doesn't exist. So we simply don't set the process when you convert into the view model. But then when the view model adds it to the list, which is further down where we add it, that'll automatically resolve because we're adding it to a list. So that doesn't matter that we're not setting the process. But I think this is going to complain now that there's literally two overrides to action data model and it won't be able to figure out which. Yeah, so ambiguous call between the two. So you could leave that in, but then you'd have to literally say like process action view model extensions dot to view model and pass in F like that. But then that kind of defeats the point of an extension method. It's no longer an extension method. So the only way around this, because there's two, like that type is one type, but you can either cast it to its own view model, or we want to effectively convert it in a way to a process view model. What we want to do is go into the action view model here. We'll rename this to process action view model. So it's a specific cast. And now in here, we should be able to tell it to process view model. And that's doing a conversion in essence from an action view model to a process action view model. So really, that should actually be called the process action view model in one way. There we go, that makes more sense. So now do we compile? Still no. Right then, what's wrong with this? So delete action from process is the action command. Yeah, that'll now be a process action view model, I presume. I should hope, with all the conversion we've done, I think that is where it'll end up. Oh, we've compiled. That's a good start now. I don't know if that's going to work with all them changes. That was quite, well, wasn't a terrible amount of changes, but it was enough. Will we have to delete the database as well? Actually, we're going to have to delete the database because we've changed the types altogether, I think. Let's just delete the database to be safe. So there we go. It's recreating the database now. And we go to processes, new, save. That's got a new process. We add. We've got that bug that we ideally want to try and fix. We now save that. Go out and in. Still all works. Let's check the database again. Refresh in case anything's changed. We shouldn't have an action table, I don't think. I think you just made that because we've obviously told it it's a table, but that I don't think that needs to be a table. Let's just comment that out a minute. I don't think we should ever have that. Delete the database again. Recreate the database once more. Go to process, create new process, save, add a new thing, force the change, save, close, refresh. And now we shouldn't have that actions, I don't think. Yeah, so the action's gone. And then we have all the other tables. So what were we trying to do now? We've got the process action, which is a single entry in the database, which is what we wanted to see now. And then the issue was when we were deleting the entry, this wasn't cleaving. That was it, wasn't it? So we've added the cascade delete. So now let's see if we delete this, save. Does this now go? Yes, there we go. So that's now cascade deleted. That's what we wanted. So now we want to try and fix, I think the last bug we have before we get back to features is if we make a new process, save the process, add an item, we don't get any notification. So why is that? So let's take a look in process page view model. And where are we adding? Add to action here. So let's try and see if there's any difference or what the difference is between adding a new one. So if we say add a process to this one and we go through, what do we have in the process? So it's missing the ID at the minute, which obviously I think makes sense. Then we set the ID up here. So we have the parent ID, the source and the child ID. So we can breakpoint down to there really. We then add it to this list and we get that notification. Now if we make a new one, save and add, this is where we see the issue. So is there any difference in the item being added? I wouldn't have thought so. So we have a parent ID of 35016. It's hang on. Is that right? That ID. Oh yeah, that's just the ID again. Yeah, the ID is right there. Categories in. So save state, I didn't notice that. Saved state is blank. And we then add that to the list. And there's no real difference. So we add another one. So anything different here? We're adding exactly the same ID again. So parent ID 0 and 166, and the sort order would make it different. The 0, which it isn't. The save state is exactly the same, so there's no difference. So it doesn't matter how many we add, we don't get the notification. If we tab in and out, see now all you got to do is tab in and out and it figures out there's a difference. So if we delete that, make a new one, okay, we can ignore that for now. Add an item. Oh, well, I've got to save first and then add an item. Can't see any difference there. No notification. But if you tab in and tab out, it instantly knows there's a difference. So something minor's going on here, but it's not the add action part. So if it's not this part, the only difference between, if you bear in mind toggling back and forward between the page, causes it to load. Where's the differences? So get list, one is this, we get the list from the database and then we add them. The other is calling create items. So we create a new process. Is this? Oh, so they are newed up. So we should have actions as being a new value. Actions is a new list there. Actions is a new list there. So the action should be a list when we've newed this up. Let's just try making actions a new list, even though the constructor, I think that's what it's going to be. And yeah, I think that's what it's going to be. So we go to processes, make a new one, save, add. Yes, there we go. So the issue, it's very subtle, that is, which we might want to fix somehow, is in the actions, we don't call this set and observe everything until we actually set the actions in the first place. We have to set it at least once, otherwise we're not hooking into the event. And can we just do, no, you see, you can't do that. So that's a minor, yeah, that's a minor problem in a way. So what you're probably better doing is doing that, having the warning there, and then in the constructor, which we don't have, we would then do in a constructor actions equals and then a new one, so that we're always initializing the property. I just want to stop the compiler warning. There we go. I'm going to ignore that warning because it's annoying. But this is the way we'd have to, I can't think of any other way to do that because we need to call the set first. I think this is the cleanest way, and now we shouldn't have to try and remember to do that anywhere. So whenever we new up the class, that should now work the same way. And we should kind of bear that in mind with the selectable lists, that is something, yeah, that's worked now. That is something that could happen. But considering we've only seen it here at the minute, I'm not going to go around and retrospectively fix it everywhere else. But if we just did set and observe everything, you can see we have it in, well, we do one in here, we have it in the action save drawing view model. You want to convert this constructor to it. So tell you what, let's just, that actually won't matter, will it? Yeah, we have the backing field. You wouldn't ever notice it on here because they're not changing at the minute, they're static. But that would mean you'd want to do the same there, export formats, and then you want a constructor in here. So I'll tell you what, let's just fix it now so we don't forget. Export formats equals blank. And then let's just suppress the warning. Set and observe. So we've done this one. And now we've got to do it in here as well. Action save model, exactly the same principle. Do that, create a constructor, set the export formats, and suppress the warning. And then we might be able to find a better way to do that in future. Is there any others? No, this is the last one. So that's the only three places we've used it at the minute to observe everything. So I think that's now it. We've fixed all of the bugs we had. That was quite a lot of bugs. Up next, we've got to do the sort order in here. So if we add multiple items right now, this will be a problem because everything's got a sort order of 0. So we need to get this that either when we add them to the list, we set the sort order, or when we drag and drop them and move them, we set the sort order, or we just ignore the sort order completely until we come to press save. And then at that point, we recalculate the sort order. The only thing is, if they're in this order, and then we click delete, the sort order, if it's changed, is going to be wrong. So we have to, that's the downside to having that ID include the sort order. if you change the ID while you're dragging and dropping, the back end database with that item in is going to go missing. So we'd have to contemplate that as well when we come to do it. But when we come to save the process, we'll probably just wipe the actions list and re-add them, so they're in the right order anyway. So we'll figure that one out. After we've done the sort order, we need to be able to drag and drop inside this list. And then once that works, we can go on from here to be able to drag and drop down to here. And then I think that's the actions list all done.